Hi there. Welcome to New Tracks Modeling. New Tracks is an exciting new digital opportunity to obtain mentoring to help you improve your modeling. You will meet talented modelers and manufacturers from all over the world who share their model building skills and artistic advice. Improve your modeling and increase the confidence in your modeling efforts. Share your building efforts with fellow modelers and have some fun doing it. The shows are live on Zoom and YouTube, so be sure to join in and ask your questions. Now here is New Tracks founder and your host, Jim Kello, NMRA.
Unmute yourself, Jim.
You're unmuted.
Got it. Well, thank you so much for joining us this evening. We really do appreciate it. Hope you come back often and tell your friends about us. Before we start the show, I want to introduce Father Ron Walters for the show's prayer. Father Walters?
Creator of the world, as modelers and makers, we recognize the intricacy and beauty of our world. We thank you for the vision and the artistry you have given us. Continue to bless us with your creative spirit. Amen.
Father, thank you so very much. We appreciate everything that you do for the show. I hope that you're going to show us some more of your modeling at one of these upcoming My Bill segments. I missed it the last one. Now I want to do the sponsors video for our show, Brennan's Model Railroad.
For over 25 years, Brennan's Model Railroading has been offering unique products for the O-scale market. Our flagship product, Brennan's Better Ballast, was an instant hit and continues to be the industry leader. Its prototypical size and natural color blend of real crushed granite make it the choice for discerning modelers. Since then, we've developed a complementary line of natural ground cover materials. Additionally, we offer craftsman kits that anyone can build with complete photographically illustrated instructions that assume you've never done this before. The Sonky Wanky Coffee Company is the latest and the fourth kit to be added to our ongoing and highly popular limited edition Ellison Tribute series. These kits take Ellison's scratch-built iconic structures to a new level with Dennis spin. The idea being that if Frank were alive today, this is how we would build these models using modern methods and materials. Use the QR code to visit our website.
Really do appreciate Dennis for his sponsorship for our show. Well, now I want to introduce Bob Davidson, who is chairman of our scholarship committee. Bob, welcome.
Thank you, Jim. Always a pleasure. Just a quick update tonight. Obviously, we are still, we've got about a month and a half left of open period in our application process. Application deadline is July 1st. So please, if you know of any students or know of any friends, have any friends who have children or grandchildren that are going to be graduating high school or are in college and are studying any of the STEAM, that's science, technology, engineering, arts, or mathematics, they are eligible to apply for the scholarship. So please send them over to newtracksmodeling.com/scholarship, and they can apply either online or they can download an application or they can send an email and ask any questions they might have. I want to again thank Dan Brewer, was up at the NMRA Midwest conference, and I guess they had about 150 people there. He had a banner up at that conference, so thank you. Obviously, thanks to Phil and everything that he did out at the PCR Regional. Coming up, we will be in Harrisburg at the ON30 Summer Meet on June 7th and 8th. Also that weekend, late breaking news, it looks like we're going to be at the Penn Trolley Show in Pittsburgh the weekend of June 6th and 7th. And then we'll be down in Tallahassee at Andy Zimmerman's Tallahassee Model Railroad Show, and that's June 21st and 22nd. So please stop by and visit the New Tracks Modeling, New Tracks Mentoring Scholarship table. We have the banners there. We have flyers. New to the ON30 meetup in Harrisburg, we will now have a video running. Phil is kind enough to be producing for us, and Steve Sherrill and Greg Cassidy are going to be manning the table that weekend. So the TV is on hand. It's been purchased and delivered. So we're looking forward to that. And also big thanks to Chris Corse of Conowingo Models, who has donated a couple of kits for us to use as an incentive to get people to sign up for New Tracks, and also to just stop and listen to our pitch about the scholarship. So we're very excited about that. So thanks to all those people who are helping out. But please, if you can, talk up the scholarship. Tell folks that you hear, that you happen to meet, anyone at your meetings. If you happen to go to a school event, just spread the word, please. And as Jim always likes to say, your money never gets old. So please visit our site, click on the Zeffy button, and please continue to support this most worthwhile scholarship. We're covered for this year, but we're already beginning to plan for next year's activities. So thank you for your support, and thank you for your continued support. So back to you, Jim.
Thanks, Bob. Really like to add just a little bit. This program that we're starting, this ON30 meet that Al is putting on, this is our guinea pig. And Chris is the part of that guinea pig program, because we bought a television set so that we could run the videos. And we're going to have 3 videos on a loop, one about New Tracks, one about the scholarship, and one about Chris Corse's company, Conowingo Models. And we're going to give away 2 prizes, 2 different kits during the show sometime. It's free to enter. This, as far as I'm concerned, this is just another step in our program of trying to encourage people to get involved with our scholarship, find out about it, because the scholarship program, and we're the only organization of volunteers out there doing anything like this. So we're promoting it best we can with the help and the support of both the show developers and producers and the individuals who want to attend the shows and support New Tracks and the scholarship program. So it's all done by volunteers, and it's coming along very well. I mean, from starting it last year without a 501c3 or anything, we were able to raise enough money to give 1 scholarship. And we had a fantastic young man that applied, that we were able to help him in his education. This year, which really was the first full year that we did it, we've been able to raise enough money where we can offer 3 $2,000 scholarships. Well, that's not bad for, in effect, the first year that we've been able to do it with a 501c3. And thanks to Jeff Jordan and his law firm, we were able to get that, I think, in record time. Less than a month, I think, from the time we actually filed it until the IRS notified us that we had it. So, Bob's done a fantastic job, as has the whole committee, and we couldn't be more pleased with the way things are going. We just need more participation by volunteers. We need more people talking about what we're doing. Whether you contribute money or not, yes, we would like for you to contribute money, but even if you don't, just talk about it. People need to understand that the modeling community really does support the young modelers, and is trying to use this as one way of demonstrating financially our interest and our support of them being model railroaders, staying model railroaders, but yet getting a great education so that they're able to provide the leadership that our hobby is going to require in the future. That's what this is all about, in our opinion. So if you can support us by just talking about us, we appreciate it. If you can contribute something to it financially, yes, we would certainly appreciate the financial backing, because it takes money to try to keep this going, even though we're not spending hardly anything. I think the TV cost is $80, for example. And our only other expenses so far has been the FedEx cost of sending the banners around. Bob, for anybody that doesn't know, his company, Exhibits and More, has developed and provided all of the banners for free for the scholarship program. So we had no expense for that. And it was a tremendous boost to us to have somebody with Bob's background to be able to do that. Phil being able to make the videos that we can show on the television is a major asset. And Phil's not charging us anything for that. So yeah, we're a bunch of volunteers. We're doing the best that we possibly can. We talk about it. We ask for your support. And we're so pleased about the kind of support that we're getting. But there's much more, in my opinion, that we need to get done. And we're trying to do it baby steps at a time, because we've only got so many hours in the day for volunteers that we have right now. So if you'd like to volunteer to help us, please let us know. Like I say, Bob and his team are doing a fantastic job, and there's just never enough of us to do everything that we'd like to do. So Bob, thanks so much for all of your hard work. We really do appreciate it. With that said, I want to introduce Martin Breckbiel, NMR, who is the editor of our newsletter. We've been doing that newsletter now since January. The May newsletter just was out, and we're getting some great comments about our newsletter, and very favorable comments about the articles and about how it's being presented. So Martin, thank you so much for all the work you're doing. And let me turn it over to you to talk about maybe stuff that you'd like to see in future newsletters.
Oh, wow. Thank you, Jim. If anybody's saying good things about it, please send that to me. I could always use a boost in my ego, fragile as it is. Yeah, this is I'm working on the June issue already. It's up to 31 pages already, which nobody should take that as an indication that we have a plethora of submissions. The filing cabinet, the larder is full. It never is full. So send your cards and letters and articles in. One thing we're going to probably start, if we can get enough of them from you, the listeners and participants here, are they're trying to look at featuring a layout in an issue. And see if we can do that in every issue going forward. Obviously, it doesn't have to be the world's greatest novel, page or three with photos included, a couple of paragraphs, maybe just 20, 5, 10, 20 photographs with some captions. We'll be happy to take it and feature your layout in the newsletter. So that is one thing I'm looking forward to trying to do. And I think at least one person who's on the show tonight will be our initial victim of that effort. And of course, my normal monthly plea to the regular contributors, send your stuff for the newsletter as soon as you can. So I can put it in there now and start mapping it out, getting the pages to line up close to correct, or close to slightly less than incorrect. As long as it comes out even at the end of the day, it still looks pretty good, I think. So keeping me busy. So we'll put it together, and looking forward to stuff showing up. I'll find the email address here for you and stick it in the chat when I get a few free moments. Back to you, Jim.
Martin, thank you so much. I can't thank you enough for volunteering to be the editor for the newsletter. You're really doing such a great job. And I'll try to stroke your ego a little bit more each time. I've been negligent. By the way, the layouts and the stuff that Martin's talking about for the newsletter, this is not scale specific. It doesn't make any difference what the scale is. It could be N scale, G scale, Z scale, HO. It makes no difference. What we're interested in is modeling. That's what New Tracks is all about. That's what our newsletter is all about. We're not scale specific at all. So anything that you have that you'd like to talk to us about, any of the scales or gauges, it can be Lionel 3-rail as long as you're a modeler and building the scenery and building structures and so forth for your layout. The same with American Flyer. It doesn't have to be necessarily 100% scale to be in our newsletter. It just has to be modeling. And that's something for you to keep in mind, depending on what scale or gauge that you're really in. I'm an O scaler. Most people know that, I think, but we're not looking at O scale models necessarily. Martin's edited O scale magazines in the past, but this is different. This is modeling. This is New Tracks. This is for any scale, any gauge. This is not just O scale or any specific scale of model railroading. So I hope that you will submit some photos to us, because we really like to see at least a little bit about the right layouts that everybody has. Well, with that said, I want to turn to Greg Cassidy and Chris Course. I don't know whether Chris has made it yet or not, to talk about our next My Build on the 22nd of May.
Yep, I made it.
Chris?
Apparently just in the luck of time. Hey, Greg.
So I can throw out all my notes.
No, go ahead. Let's see. I've got actually the slides here.
Yeah, well, if you got the slides, our next My Build that'll be coming up on May 22nd, yours truly will be hosting. Chris will be putting everything together. So he does all the work and I get all the glory. But we'll be running that on May 22nd. That's right. Please get the pictures to Chris by May 19th so that he has time to put it all together. And his email is railrunner130@hotmail.com. And then for the June My Build, that's going to be based on water. And that will be June 19th. So if you have anything that has anything to do with water, it could be a river or a lake, it could be a boat, it could be a bridge. I know something that I'm going to send in that has a couple of those on it. Anything with water. And, you know, it could be model related, but it doesn't necessarily have to be train related. So go ahead and send those pictures in. And I guess get them to him by June 16th so he has time to put them together. Anything you want to say, Chris?
No, great job, Greg. Probably did it better than I did. So, all right. Well, thanks for tackling that there, Greg. Made it in just the nick of time. Just got hung up with a ice cream fundraiser that was supposed to be dinner, but it wasn't dinner. So we ended up. It's like, well, while we're out, where can we go? So anyway, here we are. All right, so I guess I will turn it back over to you, Jim.
Well, thanks so much, guys. By the way, on May the 22nd, our total show is going to be two things. Kurt Thompson, MMR, is going to talk for 15 minutes or so about not overreading the requirements for the NMRA Achievement Program certificates. A lot of people complain and talk about, I can't do the MMR, I can't do this, I can't do that because I don't want to have to do this, that, and so forth, which is not even a requirement. But they misread or they read into what they think the NMRA regulations say more than what is really required. And Kurt is going to talk about that. I think that's important to hear. Other than that, the rest of the show is going to be the people participating in the May 22nd My Build. So we're going to have probably an hour and a half, hour and 45 minutes of one or two things. A lot of great modelers showing their models or dead time and a very short show that evening. I hope that we have a lot of great modelers showing great models. That's why we're trying to give more time for the My Build, because in the past, we have had a lot more people wanting to participate and talking about it needs more time. They'd like to see it have more time. So we're giving it almost a full show once a month. But that means that the people who are modelers, and I don't care if you built it yesterday, 2 years ago, or 10 years ago, if you've built it, you can show it to us and tell us about it and talk about when you built it and why you built it and maybe how different that kind of modeling was back in those days versus what it might be like today for you. So all that is possible. Model manufacturers, if you've got a new product coming out, show us what the model is, talk about it. That's fine. Love to see it. We're not charging you anything for it, so why not get the visibility of your new products? Are we getting anything like that? No, we're not. But we're offering it to the manufacturers. If they want to participate, fine. If they don't, that's up to them. I'm just concerned that I don't want to see Greg and Chris have to make up time either doing a clinic or doing something that they have to do themselves once a month because we're not getting people to participate. And frankly, if we don't get people to participate, then we'll cut back on the amount of time allocated for the My Bills each month and go back, having other parts of the show. But I don't want to do that right now. I want to try to give as much time, even more than once a show a month, if the interest is there. But that's going to be whether you guys want to show what you're doing. And I sure hope you do, because a lot of people would like to see it. Chris?
Jim, can I say one more thing about submissions to My Build?
Yes, sir.
I think most of the time we see a finished product, and while they're lovely, it doesn't have to be a finished product. We be just as interested in seeing how you build it. Maybe 1 or 2 photos while you were halfway through it. What did you start with? What was a problem you ran into working on it? All of that is just as interesting to other models as the finished product.
Because it's all a learning experience. All of that is a teachable moment for other people, and something that they'll learn and not have to experience maybe the same kind of a situation that you did. So Greg is right. I mean, it doesn't have to be the most beautiful, finished, beautifully weathered, masterpiece in the world. We're just interested in what you're building. This is not a contest. This is not, being critical of what you're doing. We just want to see what you're building and have you talk to us about it so that hopefully other people will benefit from what you're doing and be able to improve their modeling. That's what it's all about. Guys, thanks so very much. Look forward to seeing you next week. I had a gentleman, Bud Brock, call me. Bud is a member of the Pennsylvania Trolley Museum, and I was talking to him about another matter. And he said, Jim, you ought to talk about the after show. Well, we don't have the after show as we used to. We used to have a segment once we finished with the regular items on our agenda. Clark used to do an after show after that, and we don't have that anymore. But if you're on Zoom, now this does not apply to the people on YouTube, because we do terminate the recording on YouTube once our regular show is finished. Once we've done the caboose, we terminate the video for the YouTube feed. But the Zoom members continue on. And anywhere from 10 to 20 minutes, 30 minutes, whatever, after the show is over, the people on Zoom are still participating in whatever discussion, whatever issues they would like to talk about. And people can stay and do that. That's fine, as long as there's somebody here that wants to stay and keep running the show. Because frankly, after running the show for 2 hours, some of the regular producers are saying, that's it, I've got to go eat dinner, I'm out of here. But somebody else then can take over as the producer and continue it for a while, and that's fine. I mean, it's not costing the show anymore whether we run 2 hours or 2.5 hours. But you have to sign up. on our website in order to get the Zoom login link. If you want to start watching the show on Zoom, then you can participate in the after show, however long that is after each show, and it's not a recorded session. So we stop the recording as of the end of the show after we've done the caboose, but then we continue having a discussion after that. It's just not recorded anywhere. It's just the people on Zoom that want to continue whatever discussion the group wants to talk about at that point. There's no agenda, there's no discussion method or anything like that. It's just somebody makes a statement and we go from there. So if you'd like to do it that way, you've got to be on Zoom, which means you have to subscribe to our website, and then you will get the Zoom login link once a week and be able to stay after the show and participate with the people that are on the show for Zoom. I also want to say that Phil Edholm, I want to introduce Phil. Phil was just named the Member of the Year for the PCR based on all of the work and everything that he did for their convention that they just finished out in California. So Phil, congratulations on that. And
Thanks,
I want to
Jim.
introduce you and let you talk about that if you'd like to, and also about the article that you've got coming out in the NMRA publication.
Well, actually, it was not so much for the convention as we've been doing, really tried to get focused on recruiting. I think we recruited 67 new members in the last year, which is pretty good for a region. I guess we're about 700, 750 total. So we're actually doing a pretty good job of recruiting. Of course, retaining them is then the next step that you have to go through. But I think it's one of the things tried to do is have an impact both on the division and then on the region. And I think that was recognized. And for those of you who got to go to the virtual convention, it was I think it was a very good, great virtual convention. The actual convention, I think, was even better. Had some amazing layouts to see, et cetera. So, yeah. And if I get the NMRA magazine in June, I have an article coming out. It was an article based on some thought process around the difference in scales not being linear. In other words, HO, we often think of as being twice, or O scale as being twice the size of HO. But if you really think about it, in the area you can model is actually area, which is a square function, exponential square function, and detail is actually an exponential cube function. And when you look at those and look at how the curves that impact what you choose in modeling, it's really an argument of why O scale narrow gauge actually is an incredibly effective scale for both the scale of what you can model, the types of buildings, et cetera, but then also the detail you can model. So I think it's one of the things that you see a lot of what I'll call more detailed modelers migrating into those scales versus trying to go into O scale as a full scale standard gauge, or going down to HO where you lose a lot of detail, but you get a little bit more area in the scale. So that article will be in the June NMRA magazine. Anyway, back to you, Jim.
That's great. And again, if you'll send us a picture of yourself getting this award at that dinner Saturday night, we'd be glad to put that in the newsletter. Even though I know that you may not have a photo of it, maybe you can find somebody that has a camera. Thanks, Phil. But now let's start the show. HO scale modeling. We have a sponsor for this, Mainline Hobby Supply. We could run that video, please.
Mainline Hobby Supply is your one-stop store for model trains in G, O, S, HO, N and Z scales, including locomotives, rolling stock, track, train sets, and more to help build your model railroad. We are the largest model railroad shop in the area, and we carry a wide range of model railroad supplies across scales. Our friendly staff is always available to help with your modeling needs and to special order anything you may require. Mainline Hobby Supply is in southern Pennsylvania, halfway between Philadelphia and Pittsburgh. We are only an hour away from Baltimore, and we are easy to get to from the 70, 81, 83, and 270 freeways. Plan to stop by on your next trip through Pennsylvania. Mainline Hobby Supply also has an online store that can cater to your modeling needs wherever you are located. With our large inventory, fixed shipping costs, friendly and knowledgeable service and prompt shipping, consider Mainline Hobby Supply for your next online order. Use the QR code to access our online store.
And our host this evening for the HO scale modeling segment is Gary Sherrill, MMR. Gary, welcome.
Thanks very much, Jim. What we're going to discuss tonight is here. Whoops. Can we see that?
Yes, we can.
Yeah.
You have to put it on
There
slideshow.
we are.
There you go.
Okay, we're going to talk about HO scale model or automobiles. Model. One of the nice things about HO scale is we have a large supply of actual HO scale models. And I'm going to talk about a few of them tonight. The one that is very popular with me are the highway miniatures by Jordan. They're not being manufactured anymore, but you go to flea markets and that, you can pick these up, and some of the hobby shops do get them in every once in a while from collections that are being disposed of. So you can see we have a large variety. This is just a few. And some of the ones that I've built over a period of time is I built the fire trucks. You get a nice little box, and inside the box are beautiful, well-detailed instructions, both graphic and written. And there's what the little kit looks like when you open it up. There's some very tiny parts in there, but don't be discouraged. Follow the instructions in order that they're given, and you can end up producing a nice little model like this unit here. Again, another unit, fire truck. There's the bag and the instructions on how to put the thing together. And this is what you end up with. Now, this one here is the Athens Fox fire truck. I don't know the exact year, but when it's all put together and painted, it does make a very nice model. Another picture of the other side of it. As you can see, it's very highly detailed. Comes with a bell and pretty authentic looking when it's on a layout. Now this one here is another different style kit fire truck. And then that's the other side. That one there is the American La France fire truck, 1924. And again, another kit. This is the Model T Ford pickup truck, or not pickup truck, but delivery truck. And you can see the packaging and then the set of instructions. And as long as you go follow these instructions, you'll come out with a pretty nice looking model. This is some of the parts laid out for that truck you just saw. And as you can see, some of these little parts here, they're very tiny. But again, following the instructions, everything goes on together beautifully. And here's a couple more of the models that have been done, two different styles. showing the back and the front. These are all plastic models, but I use a technique where I make the plastic on them look like wood. Again, another couple of Mack trucks, basically the same truck. Again, Jordan. Another view from the back and front. Another little Jordan model. It's a shame that Jordan, apparently the dies have been destroyed and they're not manufacturing these anymore. Like you can see the detail on these is quite incredible. The wheels, the stakes on the side and on the back of the loading area. And here's a few more. These two here, this is a 1901, I don't know the exact name, but it's a steam vehicle. That's a track inspection vehicle. And this is exactly the same vehicle, only it's a little buggy 2-passenger vehicle, 1901. And these here are Jordan gets a delivery van, U.S. mail or some other high valued product that would be delivered. You can see down like these little pieces here that I was telling you, they're on the spurs and they come and they have to be carefully, and then a little crank that's on the bottom to get the thing started. And then we have Sylvan. Sylvan models are still being produced, and they're beautiful HO scale models. And he's got quite a number, like a large quantity of different vehicles, cars, trucks, delivery trucks. He has some boats and ships also. And they're a pretty nice model. When you open up the box, this is what you would get inside, and it's basically clean it up. You would paint it, as you can see here on the box, and then put the thing together by the instructions. Instructions are very, very well printed out. And here is another Jordan vehicle that's been converted into a bit of a plow and inspection car for the railroad. This one here I'd done up, and I'm a CN fan. So most of my railroad vehicles are all done up in CN. Another view of it. And this one here is by Sylvan. This is a one-of-a-kind actual model of the Ontario Provincial Police wagon that they used to have in the early years. And as I say, it's a one-of-a-kind. He could not get the rights to reproduce it or to produce it and sell to the public from the OPP. But I do have one model that was produced as a mock-up, and this is it here. Just shows you the back. This is the original painting scheme that was on the vehicle, the original vehicle. This sort of greenish and then white. Now you can see here, saw my layout. I'm really big into fire hall and the fire trucks. And of course, a lot of these are Jordan models that you see down the street. But the models add quite a bit to a scene in model railroading. See, here's a Volkswagen open the top down. That's a European manufacturer. And here you just showing you a scene on the HO layout with the fire trucks. This is a I think in Metal Classics, this is a all white metal kit that was put together. And then the Jordan vehicles here. This is a I think it's a Chinese-made metal vehicle that they produced years ago. You could get through Walmart, but you can see adding the vehicles into a scene, it adds quite a lot in HO. Again, European manufacturer. There's a Jordan here. This is a American made. It was an army truck that converted into a coal carrying or ash carrying vehicle. So you can see these different vehicles and a coal loader here, and this coal loader there on that side, and then the vehicles that are in the back of the scene. Roadway truck, which is classic or metal miniatures. Same scene again, just up a little higher. Another vehicle back in here. Now this here was a 172nd kit that was an actual Air Force service vehicle. And what I did was painted it up and made it into a CN. So after the war, they would have purchased vehicles and repurposed them for service. Another one back here, more modern vehicle here, was a little out of date or a little far advanced for my layout. And then the CN transport truck, which is another one of the Walters series vehicles. And this one here is from Rapido. This one is one of the ones that I just recently got. HO scale CN police vehicle. And the officer out talking to a couple of the hobos that are in an abandoned building that burnt down, the old signal switching tower. This is very nice. This is all metal and plastic. It's a very nice model. This here was produced by one of our gentlemen on the WOD, Western Ontario Division, and he started making these. So I ended up buying a few and then putting them together and painting them up for CN. And here you can see the European ones, the vehicles that around this. This here is a Walters, just a little truck. And again, that other vehicle I told you about earlier that was produced. You could buy them at Walmart, I think for about $3 way back when. And again, European made, couple of vehicles, plastic, and they're on their way across the railroad tracks headed to the station. And here's at the station. This is all metal with the metal cars. This is a European manufacturer. I'm sorry, I don't know the names. This here is a plastic kit that was put out in the probably the late 50s, early 60s. And you could build this all up and make these plastic cars you could purchase. This is one of the little transport trucks. Then one of the classic metals buses. European here, a little truck with a canvas top, and European here. You can see we in HO scale, we do get a very large variety. These were also purchased from Walmart. They're metal and plastic, and they've been repainted and redone, and they're actually just trucks. I haven't got them deckled out yet, but they're hauling the coal from the coal distributor. Again, these here, they came in as a kit, and then just a load put on the back. That's another one of those ones you just saw earlier in the orange, just painted different with a load of grain on it. And then in here, we have another one of the pickup trucks, HO scale. One of the other trucks back here with a grain, small bus, freight delivery van, and the bus. This is a European manufacturer. And here are the metal trucks, the little pickup trucks, as I explained before. These are Jordan tractors, and the little skidder is European. And they're on a Mack flatbed that I made from one of the Mack trucks. Didn't put the regular back on it. And then we have the European again, the little Volkswagen, which is a utility van. And you can see the tractor back here. This is all metal tractor. Little HO scale. And then looking down, you can see the number of trucks, European made. This is a same vehicle here, only this is a trailer, and this is a regular truck with a stake on the back. European again, Jordan models, European, Volkswagen. Here we have some vehicles which are plastic European. This is all metal, the Corvette. And then again, these little pickup trucks that I got from Walmart years and years ago. So you can see the what it done. The little vehicles coming together, the tractors out in front of the supply mill, and they're it just put these things in. It just adds to the scene. Now, what this is, I was able to get a bunch of models that, when they're manufactured, they don't come out proper, so they're actually thrown into a garbage bin. And on a tour that we were with a club at Sylvan, I had asked the owner if I could have a bag of the old models that they're throwing away, and he did. And I just repurposed them into wrecks that you'd find abandoned somewhere in a field. Just adds nice little scene. Here's another one where the gentleman's out hunting and he's found this old wreck with a bunch of junk, and just adds really nice, makes the scene nice. And right here is a tin foil that's been formed around the side of a vehicle and then just cut up and thrown to one side to an abandoned feature. And the back part of the layout, this is a European manufacturer. These are from Walters. This vehicle here is a US made manufacturer. This is plastic, and the back end is Scratchbuilding. And then we come to the fire trucks again. This was, I was at a train show, and I picked up this little blue box. I do not know the name of the manufacturer. And this was a white metal kit. And what I had done was I purchased it, brought it home, looked at it for a while, then eventually said, okay, look, let's start building it. And this is what came out. And this is a very beautifully, highly detailed kit. white metal mainly. You have your brass casting materials, and then all this put together and wrap some wire around to make like hoses. I never did put the hoses in the back. And this is how this model turned out. Very, very nice model. Now, this is a Metal Classics. As you can see, it's also a beautiful model. So it has the hoses in the back and quite a large quantity of detail.
Gary, I hate to do this, but you need to wrap this up.
Going too long? Yeah, I should. I can just again, we got Kirby. Now there's the transport truck that you saw earlier, which is a Helgen Concours HO scale, and you can get the delivery van. These here are white metal tractors in the dozer kit, and then we come to the express delivery wagons. These are all laser cut metal kits that you put together, and that's what you get inside. And they too will make some beautiful kits, as you can see. And there's some more shots of vehicles. And just to let you know, this is HO scale. And thank you very much, Jim. Sorry for running a little long.
Oh, no problem. I tell you, it's really amazing to me the variety that HO has and the vehicles and so forth. You're fortunate in that scale to have that kind of variety.
Yeah, we're very lucky, and you know, you can pick up some beautiful models at the flea markets if you look around, and reasonably priced. You don't have to spend a lot of money. Just do a little bit of searching, and all of a sudden you'll come across some really nice stuff. But in HO scale, we are very lucky. We have a large quantity of vehicles to choose from.
Thanks so much for sharing it. See you next time.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Jim.
Well, now I want to turn to in-scale modeling. And we have a sponsor for that, which is National Capital Trains.
National Capital Trains is the largest supplier of N-scale modeling products in the state of Virginia. We have been in business since 1989. We carry a full line of modeling products, specializing in N and HO N3 scales. We carry a large selection of competitively priced high-quality N-scale products from Atlas, Bachmann, Digitrax, Intermountain, Cato, Microtrains, NCE, Pico, Rapido, Soundtrax, as well as Brass. For foreign railroad train aficionados, we offer a wide selection of Japanese and European prototype trains. We are located 20 miles from Washington, D.C. in Springfield, Virginia. We are a short 7-minute drive off Interstate 95. Stop in and see us for the best in N-scale. We also have online ordering on our website, including great prices and expert advice. Call us for your N-scale modeling needs and advice. Use the QR code to visit our website. We look forward to serving you.
And to talk to us about in-scale is our host, Clem Harris. Clem, welcome.
Hi guys, this is Clem Harris, your N-Scale host for New Tracks Modeling. And for this month's segment, we're going to talk about speed matching. As you saw in my video, under the watchful eye of Bob, our bearded dragon, where I was able to run a Kato, the SD70 Mac, the BNSF 9653 that you've seen me build over the last couple of months, a Scale Trains Santa Fe Dash 9, and then a Atlas Dash 8 4-axle locomotive. There are three different mechanisms, or three different gears. While they're similar, they're not. And so I like to be able to run all of my stuff together. If I see two locomotives, go, hey, this would be a neat consist to run. I like to be able to put everything together. So in this segment, we're going to talk about the use of configuration variables, or CVs, as defined by the NMRA, and how changing three basic CV settings can get your locomotives to play nice together. I've seen over the years that there's a couple of different ways that people do speed matching. One of the more popular ways I've read and seen is that somebody has a locomotive that they think runs well, and then they try and match everything to it. Rather than have a standard of a locomotive, I'm using an AccuTrack 2 speedometer. It's set for N-scale for the N to 1 to 160. And I chose a top speed of 73 miles an hour. Now you're probably asking, where did I get that number from? And that number came from the fact that most Class 1 locomotives are set to a maximum speed of 73 miles an hour before they get a penalty brake application that would bring the train to a stop. There are minor differences for those that are very technically oriented, but for what I'm doing, 73 works well. I take CV5 after I run the locomotive around my dining room table for 30 minutes, getting Bob's attention. I take and run it around for 30 minutes and warm everything up and make sure that everything is working the way it's supposed to. While I do that, I turn on all the lighting functions that the locomotive has, whether it's headlights, ditch lights, and then also the rear light, the rear headlight. And I run it around without any sound for 30 minutes and get everything warmed up. And then I come in after that 30-minute mark and set CV5 to give me that maximum speed of 73 miles an hour. And so then I let it make another 5 or 10 laps, and I watch to make sure that once I set CV5 where I want it to be, that I consistently see an average of 73 miles an hour over those 5 or 10 times. And if I see a minor variation of like say 72 or 74 on a lap, I don't put a whole lot of stock in it, but I just want to make sure that it's consistently performing the way I want. And so then after I set CV5, I now take the speed and I knock it down to 50% and run it. And I set the mid-range speed, which is CV6, I set that for a maximum speed of 36 miles an hour. And that 36 miles an hour was kind of a happy medium of dividing 73 in two. I can't get reading a 36 and a half on my on the AccuTrack speedometer, but I can. 36 was just a happy middle ground. And then I also repeat that process. I run it around 5 or 10 times around the loop and make sure that I'm consistently seeing 36 miles an hour. This setting is a little bit more critical because the majority of the time, I simply don't run my trains out at 73 miles an hour around the club layout or anywhere else. It's just, I don't have a lot of space, and the ability to be able to run like that it's limited. So the 36 is a lot more critical in my thinking, in my estimation, that I want that one to be as precise as possible. And so I'll make sure that over those 5 or 10 times that it's consistently hitting 36 miles an hour. And then I set the last, after I see that and I'm happy with the 36 miles an hour for CV5, then I take and I set CV2, which is the start speed. And that start speed I aim for 2.3 to 2.8 miles an hour, just based on the mechanisms, the little nuances and differences the difference between a locomotive being built on Monday, coming off the assembly line on Monday, and the Friday child that has all the oddball problems because everybody wanted to go home for the day. So using this 3-point speed curve, as you've seen in my video earlier in this segment, that I'm able to match all different brands of locomotives. I have a Kato locomotive playing nicely with a Scale Trains locomotive, also playing nice with an Atlas locomotive. And from the prototype end of it, I've been able to dial these in enough where there's very minimal bumping or one pushing the other, and it's very limited. And if there is any issue with that, I can set it back up and go through and adjust any of these CVs that I've mentioned already. I can adjust those to get it to where it'll dial it in and play really nice with everything. In a fleet of over 100 locomotives that I have, I've been able to get, using this 3-point speed curve, been able to get all of my equipment to play nice together. And that's just simply by spending the time warming them up, setting the CVs where I want, then using a speedometer as an absolute. And if you noticed in my video, you saw that the AccuTrack speedometer was tilted up on edge. They use a piece of white retroreflective striping to bounce the signal off the speedometer out to the other side of the case and then back to be able to read its speed. And because I'm using retroreflective striping on my locomotives, again, a nuance of modeling today, I actually have to tilt that up so that it reads the plastic as opposed to the retroreflective striping, sill striping on my locomotives. Bob appreciates his cameo. He's always watching whenever I set up and run stuff around the dining room table for speed matching. Bob gets a kick out of watching everything and all the little odds and ends sounds. You will see also that each decoder brand has these settings if they're compliant with NMRA standards. Don't want to get into brand bashing. My personal favorite decoder brands that I like using are either ESU because of the drop-in function for in-scale sound, or TCS for other, especially for lighting and stuff. And my personal experience is that ESU and TCS just simply have better motor control, and you can really dial these locomotives in very finely to get just a basic 3-point speed curve to work as you saw in my video. I hope this helps kind of demystify some of the speed matching and some of the little things that you hear. It's not an overly complicated process. And that's the biggest thing I wanted to demonstrate today in just a short 15-minute span. I hope this segment is enjoyable for you, and thank you for watching. I will show you the rest of the process throughout the rest of the video. Thank you very much. All right, guys, what do you think? It's been fun breaking down the process of building the BNSF 9653 in a bunch of 15.
Well, thanks so much, Clem. We really do appreciate that. Look forward to seeing you next month. Well, now I want to turn to Senior Chief Andy Zimmerman. Andy is the chairman of the NMRA Standards and Conformance program, and also the superintendent, or not superintendent, the president of the Sunshine region. Andy, welcome.
Thanks, Jim. Appreciate it.
Andy, can you talk to us a little bit about this NMRA Standards and Conformance program? I mean, I've heard about it as long as I've been an NMRA member, but I don't really know a lot about it.
Well, so the whole reason why the NMRA got started was to have trains that would uniformly run on their different layouts in their respective scales, and they would all run together. So manufacturers were going off on their own little, tangents, and things weren't running together, and there was no uniformity. So they formed the NMRA to help develop those standards. And we've been doing it ever since. We've gone through numerous standards and conformance managers. And when I came on board, I saw the standards and conformance was it was a little dated. It was kind of like doing the same thing repetitively over and over again. And I reached out to a number of very enthusiastic volunteers and pulled them in. Excuse me, sorry. I spun up, five groups. We had the overall department is the Standards and Conformance department, and then under the Standards and Conformance department, I'm happy to say we have about 83 active personnel. They're all volunteers from all around the world. They do conformance and inspection. They do the DCC working group that handles all the DCC controls and DCC manufacturing measurements, that sort of thing, setting the standards for that. We have the mechanical group, we have an electrical group, and we have a modular standards group. All of them led by well-seasoned individuals. Again, very knowledgeable volunteers from all around the world. We got people that participate from Australia, Europe, England, Canada, United States. So from all over to help create these standards and maintain these standards. So what we've done over the past, I've only been the manager for about little over 2 years now. And what we've done is we're bringing each one of the written standards back into the spotlight, and we're starting right from the top. And I almost said scratch, but we're going back to the beginnings, the reason for that particular standard, why that standard exists, and why does it matter. So and as we roll through them, we're looking at production today, models today, trackage. We're looking at the old steam era stuff, and we're looking at the new, diesel era stuff, the modernizations that we have going on right now. And then we're producing those standards so that they meet, they help the manufacturers meet those specifications. So that when you get a replica of a SD40, SD40-2, that it's correct, and that it runs correctly on N scale track or HO scale track, And it's not picking a switch, because the track has to meet standards and conformance. So it's not picking a switch because, something's too wide or something's too narrow, and it's not jumping a switch, etc., causing shorts or anything else. So, and nobody wants to try to run their model railroad and then have to run it off excuses because, oh, well, that particular engine seems to do this or do that all the time. I'm sorry, let me get a different engine, whatever. So we work with the DCC manufacturers, with the actual manufacturers of the engines and the rolling stock themselves. We give them our specifications, and they take those specifications back, measure, they send us their product. We take a look at their product for the conformance and inspection side of the house. We look at their product and we make sure that it conforms to all the standards for HO, SO, the narrow gauge as well, and all the way, everything down to Z. So we don't have any T scale yet, but we have just about every other scale. So in T scale, looks like so.
Yeah.
So anyway, so we've been going through and we've been refreshing all the standards, cleaning them up, making them better to understand, giving the modelers more detail in the footnotes, so they know where we derived the data from. And we've been taking those standards and producing them in the NMRA magazine under a column called Why Standards Matter. And then when we produce it, we also put the person who wrote the article, a little bit about that person, about whether they're an engineer or electronics technician or a computer technician, whatever. We give the full history, and so they can see that these people are well qualified and they've been working hard and working diligently to bring you the best possible product. Because our work translates into what the manufacturers are doing. And and the other part of that is when the manufacturers ignore a standard, we bring that into the light too, and we give them a chance to fix it. And if they decide that they don't want to fix it, oh, too bad, so sad, we're going to leave it the way it is. Well, we used to not tell the members because we didn't want to put anything negative in there and piss off the manufacturers. But when I came on board, the input that I always got was, well, if the NMRA knew about it, why didn't they tell us? Maybe I wouldn't have bought that product because it's not going to run well on my layout. So when I came on board, I had a sit-down meeting with all my new department heads, and I said, we are going to be transparent, and we're just going to tell the truth. And if it's ugly, it's ugly. So if it conforms and it gets a conformance warrant, perfect. If it doesn't, we gave them every opportunity to fix it. We'll be kind about it when we write it up. And sometimes it's something simple. It's like, everything about this hopper is conforms to standards except for the wheel sets. And we discovered that if you exchange the wheel sets with some intermountain wheel sets, it's in compliance. It's in conformance. So, and we give the modelers options. So you may want to do that. So, anyway,
Andy, you're probably the most knowledgeable person in the NMRA about standards and conformance and what the manufacturers are doing, what the modelers are saying, and so forth. You've got to be hearing it from everybody.
We get it.
Let me ask you this: what's your main worry for the future with all the new technology coming on board and so forth, with the standards and conformance? What does the future look like for what you do, and what is your main concern?
So, and to kind of fall back on what I was just talking about, this is why we're producing Why Standards Matter. Because the average modeler, when they come into the NMRA, they're like, oh, what has the NMRA ever done for me? Well, if they look at their layout and they were to see how smoothly it runs or how well it runs, That's what the NMRA has done for you. So, so the big thing for me is if we don't continue to grow and continue to have members that will keep the NMRA growing, moving forward, and involved, the manufacturers will go off on like they did back in the 30s. They're going to go off in their own to do their own thing, and then you're going to get an engine from scale trains that won't take a decoder from soundtracks, or you're going to get a you're going to get a locomotive that has TCS decoders in it, and you don't want that. You want an ESU decoder in it, and it won't work because there's too many alternative things on the motherboards of these engines, and the new decoder simply can't control everything. So my biggest concern is that we need the support from the model railroading community, and with that support, that translates into, well, are people going to buy our product? The NMRA has almost 18,000 people, and they're going to tell 18,000 people that this works or doesn't work. So, and we don't want that. We want that publicity, or we don't want that publicity based on their product. So, so it's kind of like the old E.F. Hutton commercial. We want to get ourselves into a position where when the NMRA speaks, people listen, and those people being the DCC manufacturers, the actual locomotive manufacturers, and some of these startup companies that are coming in now. So my biggest concern is that we're going to lose that. Go ahead.
How do you ensure you don't lose that? I mean, that's I've heard that people have been saying that that's why the NMRA was started. That's why your trains run the way they are now. That's why you're a model railroader today without all the worries from the past.
Mm-hmm.
How do you keep that interest? I mean, I don't know how to phrase it, but how do you keep that motivation, by members in the hobby?
Well, I try to talk about what it is that we do through sites like yours and other podcasts and other things, so that people understand that not just, because we're reaching out to people that are not necessarily NMRA members. So we got people on here that are, and people who are not NMRA members, and people who will spend the money or won't spend the money. So,
right.
Matter of fact, when you look at exact numbers, or when you look at actual numbers, excuse me, if every modeler were to join the NMRA, it would be exponentially larger. So because there's so many modelers who are NMRA members. So so my job is to kind of get keep everything running, keep it running smoothly, making sure that we're meeting the needs of our members and non-members, because obviously if we produce the standards, then even the non-members benefit. And we ensure that the manufacturers stay on target, and we bring the memberships and the modelers concerns to the manufacturers in our weekly meetings. We have a weekly meeting with the manufacturers, and we talk about what the members are talking about, what the modelers are talking about, what some of the concerns that we get emailed to us or sent to us, and we try to keep that interest up by keeping people informed. I would rather over communicate than under communicate. So
right.
One very very long thread on a popular site, they were talking about what could the NMRA do better, and a lot of people felt that we were not being transparent enough and we weren't being engaging enough. So I took that to heart, and so we're being as transparent as we possibly can, and we're engaging as much as we can. And we're encouraging as many as we can. And I think people see that now, because we went from probably the low 60s in volunteers to 84 volunteers now. So, and we went from mediocre, half engaged people to some very actively engaged individuals who really just want to see this thing fly and make it work. So I'm encouraged by what I'm seeing. I'm encouraged by the growth. I'm encouraged by the quality of volunteers that we're getting.
Right.
So I think we're going to continue to see that growth. The last couple of years, as a matter of fact, this last year we saw positive growth in the NMRA. And as opposed to the years previously where we had, large losses of people, they pass away or they just get out and they don't do it anymore. And we would have some negative growth. People were still joining, but more people were leaving or dying off or getting out of the hobby than were joining. So we had negative growth. But this last year we had positive growth, and not only at the national level, but we had a 3% positive growth within the Sunshine region itself. So anyway, I see I'm out of time. So, but I don't want to be too verbose.
Listen, I look forward to.
I went over time last time, so if you want me to continue talking, I'm happy to do it. But I just want to.
No, not at all. Anybody have any questions for Andy while he's here right now, or about the Conformance program that he's in charge of?
And if you don't, if you think of something, I'm going to be back I told Jim I would come back on a regular basis to discuss anything you want to talk about. I mean, even if it's not standards of conformance, if it's something else with the NMRA that I might have some knowledge on, I will be happy to discuss. Yeah. If I don't know, I'll be happy to find you the answer.
So Andy, one question. It seems to be the next area of, I'll call it innovation, is in wireless. Right. So we've had some folks that have done wireless basically as a cab bus replacement, which are all proprietary. The standard is obviously on the track side. We've now had two different implementations, one using Bluetooth kind of as a power sucking alien, and for those from the industry interpretation, how you build things. We have one that's a Wi-Fi implementation. How do you see the NMRA and the industry addressing this? Because it seems to me we're kind of in that whole area where we were with, DCC and its predecessors 30 years ago, when there were 3 or 4 different options, and there's how do you converge on one standard for wireless direct communication to a decoder in a locomotive.
So I'm glad you asked that question. Thank you very much. I'm not trying to be political, but thank you very much for that question. So we have, like I said, we have some very knowledgeable individuals. Some of the individuals that we have that work for us are pioneers in building businesses, entrepreneurship. And when I say building business, I mean multi-million-dollar businesses that are engaging us and engaging with us to talk about what that looks like, what the wireless future looks like. So we actually have, and I don't want to let too much of the cat out of the bag, but they have developed a very specific white paper on how we should go about moving forward with wireless technologies in the future and what that would look like. So we've been talking about it for the past year. They have finally gotten to a point where they've gotten everything written up. They submitted it to the Standards and Conformance Department, and now my DCC and electrical teams are reviewing it, and we're going to bring him on to discuss it with the DCC team, which consists of manufacturers from all around, from many different companies. So it's nothing that, they're going to just like drop in somebody's lab and say, hey, ESU, go run with this. But we're going to get the idea into their head and then try to shape and form the future of that wireless technology and what it would look like. So we've got something in development right now. If you give me a little time, we'll yeah, I can bring a little bit more of it to light for you after my team has reviewed it, and we reviewed it with the people who wrote the white paper on it. So, but it's out there, and they definitely saw that. They saw this coming, and they said, "Hey, we think this is the future. This is what do you think about this?" And they've got everybody's interest.
Andy, this
I
is
have a
something
question.
that when you come back at some point, I hope that you can talk more about this specifically, because I do think that this is one of the real issues out there.
Well, we have, as a matter of fact, if this meeting had been a week later, I would have been able to talk about it. But my team just hasn't had a
And
chance.
maybe next time you're on, we can continue this conversation.
Sure.
Listen, I appreciate so much you being here tonight and sharing what you shared with us this evening.
I think
and look
I have
forward
a question.
to seeing you next.
I think
Oh,
John
okay.
had a question.
Yes,
Okay.
Andy, the recent issue of NMRA magazine covered traction
Right.
and traction modeler. And did you have anybody on your team who was a traction modeler?
We tried to pull a traction. We tried to find someone who was an actual traction modeler and modeled that specifically, and those are few and far between to come up with. So no, we didn't have it. And one of the responses that we gave was, we did the best we could with that standard, and then I did get one email, and we invited that person to come and help us redevelop it if it needed to be redeveloped. So if there's anything, and this is for everybody, if you see a standard that you're like, hey, wait, this hits some of the points but doesn't hit all the salient points, maybe we should add some things to it. Hey, I welcome you, even if you only join the team long enough to help us get us through that section, talk about that, streamline it, get it correct for all traction modelers, for instance, I would welcome it. So I know
I'm a member. I'm in New Jersey, so I'm right outside of Philadelphia, and we have a club called East Penn Traction Club. And I'm sorry that happened, because I could have put you in contact with some guys who are much better modelers than I am to help you out. And I just felt in reading the article, it was.
Now remember, when you read the article,
I felt it was somebody who hasn't suffered through, and Jim could tell you because he's a traction modeler too, suffered through all of the nonsense of the wires and the overhead and things like that. And
you are absolutely correct, because I think
anyhow, that's my question.
Okay. Well, I'm going to say this, John. Send me your
John, let me encourage you to do this. Why don't you send an email? You can send it to me if you want to, or send it direct to Andy of how people that you think in East Penn would be interested and might really be able to assist John in the traction area. Because being a traction modeler, I definitely think somebody involved in traction, and really has gone through the ups and downs, as you say, would be beneficial on the committee if we could find somebody to serve. But at the same time, I understand what Andy's saying. We're few and far between, as you well know. So if you can recommend somebody from the East Penn to Andy, I think Andy might really appreciate that and might really be a benefit to all of us traction guys.
So John, along with that, if it requires a rewrite or requires like some additions to be put into it and I have to push it through the board and what have you, I am happy to do that. So, and like I said, from everybody's perspective here, whether you're an NMRA member or not, I'm looking for the best possible output. So I want quality output. I don't need quantity, I need quality. So I think if you're talking about the standard I think you're talking about, it was myself and another modeler who had done very little of it. We had some. So we defaulted to explaining why that standard mattered, as opposed to how it actually operates and how how the curves, like going around a curve. One of the things that was discussed was trying to get the the pantographs to ride along the wiring around a curve, and not hang up, catch, or break off or what have you. So we didn't take it from the perspective of how it runs as much as why it mattered. So
Gotcha.
but
John, as I say, you can send an email to me if you want to, or direct to Andy.
Yeah.
And if you send it to me, I'll make sure Andy gets it. I'll forward it to him. But I do think if you could recommend somebody from East Bend, I think that would be fantastic.
And we freely admitted that we don't have enough knowledge in that area to make it the best quality product. And I will welcome anybody to jump in and work with us to get that done. So
Okay,
fantastic.
thank you.
John, thanks so much. Yeah.
Thanks, Sean.
Appreciate it. Andy, thank you. I thank you so much. Look forward to you coming back. And when you come back, I hope you can talk to us about the wireless some more and see where we're going with that.
Sure.
Thank you so very much.
All right.
Well, now I want to turn to Tom Ferrell. And Tom is going to talk to us about billboards. So Thomas, welcome.
Thank you again for having me on the show. I greatly appreciate each and every week. This week I'm broadcasting from California, not Bloomington, Indiana. Not that that makes any difference. So here we go. Okay. So this evening, I'm going to talk about detailing the Fort Pitt Brewery, and I'm going to talk about how I make billboards and signs. So hold on a second. So first, I'm going to show you how I update the last week's feature, the Fort Pitt Brewery. This is the billboard that I'm going to show you how I made. And I put a couple signs here, recolored the roof, put another sign here. We'll go into some detail on this. So first I made a simulated metal sign for the brewery. I went on Google and I looked at logos and signs of 1920, 1930 for the Fort Pitt Brewery. This was a brewery that existed in the Western Pennsylvania, Pittsburgh area from 1907 to 1957. So I found this one. There were several, but I like this one. It was simple, couple colors. And I printed it out on PowerPoint, got it the right size. Then I traced it around a piece of plastic, approximately thick plastic. I think it was about 0.40 thick. And it doesn't, neither of these have to be perfect. What I do is I took this plastic disc and I took a 3M adhesive spray, took it out in the garage, and I sprayed this adhesive spray on this plastic disc. And then I placed this cutout on the disc. I'm going to mount it to this quote metal sign. I got this at a train show in Indianapolis this past winter in January. It's a laser cut material, and it came pre-assembled. It's kind of crudely put together, but looked like it would work for what I needed it for. It was too large, so I cut this section off on the end. Then it came pre-painted black. Then I resprayed it with a grayish black, and then I rusted it to simulate a weathered and rusted metal fabricated framework. And then I did the same to my Fort Pitt quote metal sign. I just used various acrylic colors and some pastels. And then I glued the sign onto the metal frame with super glue, and then I placed it on the steam house of my brewery. And there's the finished sign and the finished framework. And it looks pretty handsome on there. It's a nice detail. And I also, I didn't show, I also made this Fort Pitt Brewing Company Turtle Creek sign. I just picked a font that was very similar to this metal frame on PowerPoint. And I picked up the original color. That's tough to see. But I picked up a yellow color here and made it as the background and just put it on a piece of plywood approximately 4 inches by 1/2 inch. Next, I'm getting a little jumping around here. It's not my normal computer. Next, I'd like to show a few billboards that are around the reboot, the new rustic, buff, and old Gothic. These are not from my old railroad. Everybody remembers this one, Jim Seafood, my little inside joke, fresh 7 p.m. every Wednesday, Eastern Standard Time. This sign is made out of wood and features 2 lights on it. I'll show you how I make these. They're really, really quite simple. This one's above the tunnel in Shantytown. This one's a little bit more involved. These are printouts. Again, I search for 1920, 1930 advertisements and then bring them into PowerPoint, scale them appropriately, cut them out with an X-Acto knife or scissors. Sometimes I pre-weather them. Normally, I just paint them with Elmer's glue on the reverse side and stick them on my billboard. These advertisements and billboards can set the period of your railroad, so there's no question what time period you're modeling. This is immediately to the west of the John Allen engine house that I have. Again, these are period advertisements, and I try to do variety. So I try not to have any 2 billboards have the same number of, see these boards up top. I try to have variety there. And then there's 3 different colors here. You know, this is a chocolate brown, this is like a tan, and this is a Kelly green. And then the decking where they put ladders up and stand up here to put this artwork up here. These also have 3 different types of decking and spacing, and the object is not to have this cookie cutter, so it looks more realistic. This is one above the Shantytown depot. And again, in keeping with the theme of variety and different colors, you know, this doesn't have any header board of any kind. It does have the decking and it has dual, variety is the key, and keep the visual interest up. You see, I rust them to simulate if they were metal, or if they're paper, I have them peeling, and I hit them with pan pastels typically. And I should mention that all of my work, including my structures, I typically spray with dull coat when I'm all complete. So it serves to seal the pan pastels and any of the paints. Everything gets dull coated. This was a sign that I featured on the show approximately a year ago. I just made a metal fabrication here out of wire This was a combination of what's called piano wire, which is like a steel, and brass. My advice would be simply to use brass because then you could solder it. So if I ever do one of these again, I will make this grid out of brass and just solder it instead of super gluing. And these are die cut letters from a craft store. You can, the A through Z, they give you 2 or 3 of each letter. They're approximately 1/2 inch, 3/4 inch for O scale, just painted and weathered. Again, variety is the key. This one features not only 4 lights, you can't really see it here, but there's conduit. So if you really look at this one up close, it appears as though this conduit to these lights actually goes to electrical boxes, which feeds this. I mean, it looks pretty realistic. I should have taken a reverse photograph. And this is a parody of Earl Smallshaw, who did the Miracle Chair Company. Just a little parody of his. I'll go into that at some other point. And here's yet another billboard, the Titanic and the Lusitania, 2 renowned passenger liners. Again, and I'm going to show you how I make these. It's really quite simple, and it adds a lot of visual interest to the layout, just like these fences do. So this is how I make these billboards. I typically start with a piece of plywood, very thin aircraft grade plywood. In this case, this is a very large sign, relatively, approximately 4 inches by 6 inches. So I didn't want to use basswood, but basswood's a perfect sample. If you use like a relatively thin basswood, that'll work for most applications. But on these larger ones for stability, I chose 1/8 inch aircraft grade plywood. I marked out with my micro mark square the size that I wanted. Then I cut it out with my little micro mark saw because it's plywood and very difficult to cut with a knife. Then I put approximately 1 inch increments here, approximately. I can't remember what it. And these are scale 6 by 6s. And then I simply glued them on. I used yellow glue this time. Glued these on, and if you notice this mark here, this is so it's going the wrong way. This is so that I would get it relatively even across the top. I would go back on this particular sign on my little disc sander and make sure that these were absolutely flat, flush, true to one another. It's not so critical on the bottom because they're getting buried into the scenery. So there's the reverse side. So that you can detail these as much as you want. If you really wanted to show, you could make this board by board construction. If you wanted to show, for example, peeling artwork, and you wanted, instead of just a flat piece of plywood painted, you could show, 1 by 6s would probably be appropriate. But for most of these applications, I don't need that much detail. Next, to put the deck on, I put these stringers out. I cut them on my chop saw. I use super glue here because I want instant adhesion, so I don't have to play games with them being parallel and perpendicular. And then I glue the first decking on with yellow glue, and I hold it with these clamps I have. It doesn't take long for it to, the yellow wood glue dries pretty quickly. In a half hour or so, I'm ready to go. So there's the basic billboard. So really you're talking about a piece of plywood, 4 by 4s or 6 by 6s running vertically, and then some sort of strip material. I use 1 by 2s down here. And I use 2x6s for the decking. And these are 1x2s up here, and that's 1x6s scale lumber. But it makes a pretty presentable billboard. You can go with further detail. I don't find it necessary. This is sufficient detail. There's a little close-up of the runners. Again, it's a combination of yellow glue and super glue. Now I needed the artwork, so I had to create this, and I went on Google and I found 2 more Fort Pitt old advertisements that I liked. Apparently they made Fort Pitt beer, and they made old Shay ale. I sized them to the identical diameter. I chose a font that was very similar to what these advertisements had, and I just put it in there. Fort Pitt Brewing Company. I centered it, and as an added touch, I put Turtle Creek down there. And then with PowerPoint, I picked up this color here behind the drink. You can select a fill color, and it's an eyedropper. So I picked this yellow eyedropper as a fill color, and then I filled the background to match this color here. So now there's continuity in the design. Then I drew another rectangle, and you have various choices of borders with PowerPoint. So I put a thick and thin double border there, and using the scale of the on the screen, you can put a vertical scale in inches and a horizontal scale. I got it exactly the right size, printed it out, and then I said to myself, they wouldn't be able to do a big printout like this. At the very least, I think the way they used to do them in the 20s and 30s is put up. I don't think they had plywood till World War II. So I made the assumption that they would make some kind of panels in a roughly 4x8, even though they didn't have plywood. So I put that grid on the back of my artwork, and I decided to cut out these panels so I wouldn't have one gigantic billboard, if you will. And then I started gluing them on. I spray painted this a chocolate brown flat. And then I started gluing these panels on with white glue. So I would take my cutout with a paintbrush, I would paint the back of it, then I would stick it on. And then I would, actually before I glued it, I did the perimeter with a alcohol wash to simulate a first step of weathering. Then when it was dry, then I hit it with the Elmer's glue. I painted it on and stuck them on one at a time to simulate that I had 5 pieces across, 2 high. Started additional weathering here. I just went back with watercolor washes and just started dabbing and fooling around trying to weather this. And when I was satisfied that I had made it rustic enough, I went back to the wood here, and I started adding pan pastels to weather that up a little bit. Then I placed it on the layout. There it is, fully weathered, and we'll get some close-ups, but it's in front of it. Everything along my railroad's going to be trashy looking, so this was another feature outside of my brewery. Let's see if we get a little closer. Yeah, there's a nice picture. So it's nice weathered look. At some point, these buildings are in the background are just for placement right now. I'm moving them around, see what I like. So pay no attention to their location. But yeah, there's the finished sign. It's quite weathered. This is weathered. I did go back to the station here and I put pan pastels on these shingles. I didn't like how they came from from the manufacturer. So I'm pretty pleased with the way this is coming together. I've got to put a platform in here.
Did we lose Tom?
Pardon me? What was that, Jim? I didn't hear you.
You just stopped talking. I didn't know whether we lost you or not.
Oh, no, I'm talking to myself, I guess. Can you hear me?
I heard him the whole time.
Oh, okay. Well, this is how the brewery currently looks. I'm going to make a couple more additions. I'm going to put a platform in here so that the box cars that come into this spur will have the ability to take on kegs of beer. And I'm going to mark some of these like steam room, office, warehouse, just do some more details over the next couple of sessions. But there's a lot of improvements to this roof. I should have did a close-up maybe next time. I really didn't like the way those shingles look, but I do like it now. So, any questions?
Tom, I have a question.
Uh-huh.
Number one, did you do any billboard history? Did you study any on the history of the prints and everything? And how often did they change those prints, if you did? Because it seemed to me like they faded rather fast when I was growing up, and you know, and of course they would just put layer on top of layer. Sometimes they didn't even take them off.
The big difference between when you were growing up and these billboards are, to get color on this is hand painted. So that's actually paint. They did not have the ability to print color in that size back in 1930. So they would sketch this out and they would simply paint these. That's why they could pre-paint these panels. And the one theory is, rather than painting it up in the air, something of this size, they could paint it in a factory or somewhere else, then bring the panels to the location of the actual physical billboard, place them up here, and if they needed touched up or something, they could do it on the spot, is what I understand. And they would certainly probably just hand paint. They would probably pre-paint these and then on the spot paint Fort Pitt Brewing Company, Turtle Creek, for example, on site. But these were not printed. Neither was this. This was hand painted on a wood.
So it's not actually on paper, right, Tom?
No, like a plywood type material. And this is
Thanks so much, Tom.
Yeah.
Look forward to seeing you next time, but we're running out of time. It's almost 9 o'clock. We got 2 other people here.
Okay, thanks, guys.
Thank you so much.
Yep, bye.
Now I want to turn to Martin Breckbiel, MMR. Martin, welcome.
Hey, Jim. Just get myself together here. Something close to together. Here we are, or so it seems. Well, here we were. Okay. Well, this is where we stopped last week. We had some barrels with lids on them, handles made, they're just kind of resting there quietly. The tops are still loose. But we're going to change that by the time we're done here tonight. We'll get these anchored down good and tight. But first, we need a flat car. So the standard flat car, as I term it now, is what comes out of my shop, plus or minus this one. Things move around a little bit. I must have felt flush or something, because I used a nice brass casting instead of the usual plastic, white metal, or even 3D printed one. So, no, but I made the lever hangers just out of some brass stock. It's the usual brake system, K-brake. Don't have the truss rods up on the queen post yet, but we'll stretch that surgical silk later and pop them into place. Right now, there's a little bit of tension on them, but there'll be real tension on it later to hold it all together. Okay, well, they actually fit on top of the flat car. Fancy that. How did that ever happen? I must have measured something. Okay, so they fit nicely. They spread out. First and third one over the bolster. The middle one's sort of in the middle. They're just sitting there right now, resting quietly. And you can see we've got lots and lots of nut bolt washer castings. It's a lot of time with the handheld Dremel drilling holes and then inserting nut bolts and washers. Barrel bands are just styrene wrapped around, joined together with a little scrap on top. Unfortunately, they're glued to the wood with a little bit of CA and some glue and what have you, but just at the joinery point, and they're loose actually everywhere else. And unfortunately, I have to use MEK to do this because I'm just about out of my methylene chloride. And as I understand it, I will never get that replaced. So I have to put up with the nasty smelling MEK. So it works nicely enough. Okay, now here's how we're going to mount them onto the flat car. There's two cross members that go on top that hold the lids down. So I didn't have to glue them on. They're actually held down in place. I forgot what size pieces of strip wood that is, but they're it's sizable. It's like 4x6 or 4x8, or yeah, probably closer to 6x8. Those are brass 46 thousandths brass rod. So you drill through it and stick the rod through it, figure out where it's going to go through the decking in the car, take it all back off, drill the hole, put everything back, push it through the top, push it through the decking, drop a goo in it or drop a CA from the underside, shear off some nut bolt and washer castings, drop them on top of where the shafts are, where the 46 thousandths brass is, and those are not going anywhere now. But I will concede or admit, I never actually glued the tubs down to the decking. So you could probably move it around a little bit if you wanted to. They're not permanently attached, so to speak, but you might have difficulty getting them out from underneath there. So we'll add some more details and splash some paint on it. This is two different colors of red. I think actually one is Southern Freight Car Brown, which is actually a red. We add some stirrup steps. You put the truss rods up on the queen post. You can see that peeking up from underneath. Brake wheel, ratchet and pawl, stirrup for the brake. And there's the funky air hoses that Greg asked me about last week, if I was going to use those. The answer was yes, and there they are. You actually can buy these from Wiseman. They're a back shop product. He still has them in stock. They're so unique, I just had to have them, put them in here. The only problem is, I don't know if you can see it, there's a little support piece right here. This comes up and comes over at right angles. That's not included. So you have to solder a little piece of brass, in this case phosphor bronze, on and have it set at an angle. And then this actually slides through the end sill with a sleeve, a little union joint on it that matches up and marries up to the the train line. So you're sliding this through the hole and laterally in this direction through the end of the car while you're putting the brass piece of wire down to the decking at about a 60-degree angle. Colorful language was involved with this exercise. These are two different opposing directions to move things. And in fact, at one point it ended up in the air, flying through the air because it was sprung so tightly. I was desperately following it down to the floor and pouncing on it before it vanished. Things that fall on the floor vanish into you don't need them anymore, and they magically appear in the bottom of your foot. But these are really kind of interesting and fun to put in. They really add a completely different element to this car. So there's the other end. You can see how this piece comes back off of here and comes down at a funky angle. It's in the photos of the prototype. And so I thought, well, I have to put that in since I'm making a half-hearted attempt to build a prototype car. So paint, a couple of coats of flow quill. It's nothing like the smell of flow quill in the afternoon to get you to take a good nap. And so we put on trucks and couplers, some arch bars with some intermountain wheel sets, Athearn trucks. I find those are good enough for most of my purposes. I have a hard time putting $40 or higher price trucks underneath a wooden car that I just built. Philosophical difficulty. And painting all the little black parts. And the other side of the car, strangely enough, just looks like the other side, only it's reversed. Final thing to do. Well, I wasn't going to letter it, and I thought, well, why not? It's a little bit of a odd car to be running on the Cumberland Valley Railroad system. We're a long ways away from Uintah, and of course, Uintah was narrow gauge. So, okay, so I cheated. I took a narrow gauge car and made it standard. So I raided my dry transfer supplies, which are all, I have a big pile of custom printed stuff from Clover House years ago, page after page, all printed up for the Cumberland Valley Railroad and the Chambersburg, Greencastle, and Waynesboro railway system. So every now and then I have to go in and steal the various letters out of that and make do and create something. And fortunately, between the two, I have Uintah Railway and, of course, numbers. So, and despite the number of years storing them in a cigar box in my shop, in a nice, which is incredibly dry, they still work perfectly fine. And there's the car from the other side. And that's another completed car. Just grinding them out as fast as I can here. It's kind of quick. So I actually kind of thought this would take 3 weeks, but it ended up taking only 2. So I have no idea what we're going to talk about next week. I'll have to get speedy. So that's the end. And questions are, it's that time.
Anybody have any questions for Martin?
Yes, Martin, have you got a picture of the actual, it's Pat here.
Yeah.
Of the actual car that it hooked up
Yeah.
to something else?
Oh, yeah. Oh, this car?
Well, no, but the actual type of
The
hookup
real,
they had.
oh, yeah, I showed that last week.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was one of the first slides. It's actually in a issue of Narrow Gauge Shortline Gazette in the 88, 89, somewhere in there.
Okay, thank you.
Plus or minus 5 years.
We'll find it.
Well, I'm not going to memorize these things if I don't have to.
Thanks, Martin.
Yeah. Anybody else? Well, I guess we'll come back next week with something new. I don't know what it'll be.
See you next week, Martin. Thank you so much.
All right.
Well, now we want to turn to Steve Sherrill. What do you want to talk about, Steve?
Well, Greg, if you'll put up one of the pictures, please. I want to talk about something that happened, which was, I cannot explain how it happened or why it happened. Here I am visiting a friend who is sick, Bill Miller. He is a master model railroader. This was in this was in 2015. This is a part of a sectional railroad that I had built. And this was just an impromptu visit to Bill, who was very sick and starting to really deteriorate at this time. he's passed away about 6 years ago now. That's not really the story that I want to tell at this time. But I was trying to get him to go to battery power, and he knew that I was in it. And so I brought this section over, and we just, cleared off 2 end tables and put this 8-foot section on, and we ran the trains for a few hours. So if you put up another picture. Now here we are again. I'm controlling it. If you'll see this little piece of equipment right down here, that's the key to what I'm going to talk about tonight, as far as a mystery and unexplainable how this happened. That is a motor car made by Bachmann that I had modified to battery power and created a platform in the back. It was had an enclosed platform from the factory. I hacked it off and put a platform, open platform back there. I took that to Al Judy's show and came back, and I couldn't find a controller. These things, battery power, if you don't have the transmitter and receiver matched up, they won't work. So this piece of equipment sat for 4 years. 4 years with nothing happening. I could not, I couldn't match up the controller to the receiver to the transmitter. Mary Miller, his wife, who is also a master model railroader, they were the first husband and wife master model railroaders in the NMRA, sent me these 3 pictures. And with these 3 pictures, I now have an operating piece of equipment. I could not identify the type of controller I needed. And if you go back to that one picture, you'll see me holding the controller, and there's a letter on there for A. And so I then got everything matched up, and now I have an operating piece of equipment. I cannot understand and don't know the reason why those 3 pictures came in, to my existence. I don't know why they were there. I can only speculate, and I don't want to really go there. It's a really weird feeling. Bill was one of my best friends. And, you can always think, well, maybe there's something else going on that we can't explain. I certainly cannot explain that at all. But these little sections, this was an 8-foot section. We ran that thing all day. I almost had me convinced that we were going to go battery power on his Colorado and Southern Railroad. But then he just stayed with DCC and sound. But, he was a real good mentor for me and helped me out a lot, showed me a lot of things. So I just, wanted to mention that and say that sometimes in model railroading, unexplained things happen, and you really have no reason why they did. They just will happen. So that's it for tonight, other than I thought I would this happens to be on my just a little module that I'm working on. So I thought that was really a piece that was worth saving for my railroad. So that's it for tonight. Any questions on that?
Steve, you might also make your.
Occurrence, I
You
can't
didn't
explain
mention it,
what.
but Bill's wife, Mary,
Yeah. He sent me the pictures.
Bill's,
She sent me the pictures. She took the pictures. She wants to sell her layout, and I will be bringing some of the kits to Al's show that were around for a long time, and she had some of the original Tom Yorks, and some other good kits. So I just, wanted you guys to know that there's going to be some really nice stuff coming to Al Judy's show. And that was about, well, those pictures were taken in 2015, about October, because I have another picture of us standing, looking at the TV with the National Narrowgauge Convention from 2015. We were reviewing the pictures, so I know that's when it was.
well, thank you so much, Steve. We really appreciate it. Look forward to seeing you next week.
Okay.
Well, that's our show this evening. Pat, if we could run the caboose.
Are you good tonight, Pat? I can do it if you want. Either way. Give me another break. Well, just go ahead and sit still here. I was doing something, time got away from me. How you doing, Phil? I'm doing well. Need a caboose, that's all I need.
Well, thanks everybody for being here this evening. We really do appreciate you coming. Hope you enjoyed the show. Most importantly, hope you learned something. Till next week, happy modeling.